Just because you're a small startup doesn't mean you've got to settle for a mediocre team. One bad hire can cost you millions, not to mention the fact that you're going to be the one stuck cleaning up the mess. I spent a decade in the fire department building high-performing teams, and I did the same exact thing when I started my first company in 2017, which was acquired less than 3 years later. Today, my company gets flooded with applicants for every single role that we post, and we hire less than 0.3% of the people who apply. In this video, I'm going to teach you exactly how we do it. When I first came into SaaS Academy as a COO, we were coming off a season of massive growth. Like the entire business had tripled in about 24 months. The reality was the infrastructure behind the business had a lot of catching up to do. We've upgraded almost every position on your senior leadership team. Marketing, sales, RevOps, people, product, and we did all of that using the exact process in this video. Today, our time to fill a role is less than 40 days start to finish. Our quality bar is higher than it's ever been, and we're beating out other companies who are literally competing with us to try and hire the same people. First thing you gotta realize is that recruiting is a sales process. You're selling a top candidate on why they should come work at your company. The sooner you adopt this frame of thinking, the sooner you're gonna get better results with your talent acquisition, because the days of posting a job and getting hundreds of perfect fit candidates on autopilot are long gone. Honestly, I'm not even sure they ever existed, but it's definitely not the way it works today. So the first thing you got to consider before anything else is your employer brand. You have to understand how you're making the pitch and what your company actually looks like to the applicant. My friend Chris Person at Sales Message, he does this incredibly well. His job postings are tight. They read like a sales letter, right? They talk about why his company exists and their values, the way that every individual role is going to make a massive impact on their customers and the industry and what it's like to work there. It just paints this beautiful picture. But even that's just the tip of the iceberg. So I'm going to give you 4 key audits that you need to perform in order to get a handle on your employer brand. The first is your website audit. Just go to your company website and figure out, like, can you even find the jobs page? How accessible is it? Does it look good? How many clicks away from the homepage? Ideally 1. So you want to make sure that people can actually find it. Number 2 is the jobs page audit. Like on that page itself, evaluate, how are you selling the brand? Do you talk about how cool the company is? Do you show videos of your team hanging out? Do you talk about how your customers are winning and how amazing your product is? All of this stuff is still table stakes. Number 3 is the Google search audit. It's going to get scary for a minute. Google your company and read every one of the results on the first 3 to 5 pages. Like what comes up? Hopefully good stuff. Hopefully nothing terrible. But if you got some gaps here, it's a clear sign that you got to start talking about your company more in the market, like going on podcasts, doing some writing, shooting YouTube videos. You got to control the narrative. Then number 4 is the review site audit. And I'm not just talking about product-based ones like G2 Crowd, but also the company-based ones like Glassdoor and Indeed. You've got to know what people are saying about you. The whole point, guys, is this. Nobody wanted to buy a ticket on the Titanic after it hit the iceberg. Top performers want to play for a winning team. And the only way they're going to know that your team is a winning team is if you guys look the part on the internet. The next thing you got to consider is your top of funnel activity. I told you this was just like sales, right? If all you're doing is posting the job on your website and hoping for the best, I'm talking to you, because it's impossible to hold a high standard when you're only getting 20 applications for a role. Like, think about this for a sec. How much focus, time, energy, money do we put into customer acquisition? But then we invest a fraction of that into team member acquisition. It's completely backwards. Most of your team members are going to affect way more than just one customer. So it's clear to see where the leverage points are. So with that, I'm going to give you 3 things that you need to do for every single role after you post the job on the website to make sure that you're actually filling up your candidate funnel. Number 1, you got to post on the company socials with a video. Don't just share the link to the page or to the job posting like every other company does. The founder or the department head talking about why the role is important, that's the actual unlock here. We've all heard the saying, people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. But the flip is also true. A charismatic leader can recruit people into a job in a way that some stale posting is never going to do it. All right, number 2, post on your personal socials and get your team to do the same. Social media is a crazy powerful tool, and you got to be leveraging your team in order to cast a wide web and help spread the word. P.S. If your team won't do this, your culture might not be as strong as you think it is, and it's a clear data point. You got to go figure out why. And last but not least, number 3, the part nobody wants to do, put some paid dollars behind it. LinkedIn, Indeed, AngelList, all those job boards, you can invest a relatively small amount of money and get preferred placement on the search. It's usually worth it because you're competing amongst a sea of sameness, and it's in your best interest to make sure your post stands out. Even if you've done all of this stuff, your brand's dialed, you're promoting your jobs, and now you're getting more candidates than you've ever gotten before, don't congratulate yourself yet because you're only at the starting line. So now we got to talk about the actual pipeline process. I'm going to give you literally every step that I use in my own business, because here's what you're going to figure out. Once you dial up the throughput at the top of the funnel, what you're going to do is create the next problem. You're going to have too many applications to sort through. Enter the filter. I do the same thing when I'm coaching founders on their sales process. First thing I have them do is figure out how to fill the calendar, and then we get tighter on quality so they're only talking to the most high potential leads. For hiring, we've used the same filter for years, the 1-minute video. We ask every candidate to record a simple 1-minute video that explains two things. Number one, why are they the best person for the role? Number two, what's their favorite nonfiction book? Now here's a stat for you. On average, about 21% of the candidates send the video on the initial applications. The ones that do go directly to the top of the list. And why did we choose a video? It's simple. It reflects the way that we work. We're a 100% remote company and we communicate a lot on video. So if being on video is a deal breaker for a candidate, it's better for everybody that we know up front. No judgment, no bad feelings. It's just not a fit. But if you want this filter to really hit, you can't forget the core principle. Top talent needs context. So I matched their video with one of our own. We literally made a video on our application page that's called How to Crush Your Video Application for SaaS Academy. And it explains exactly why we ask for a video, why we think it's so important, and it helps the candidates justify the hurdle that we're putting in front of them. The ones that are interested, they're gonna do it. And the ones that aren't interested won't. And you know what? That's a good thing. So after the application and the video, we do a super fast screening call with our people team, and then we're off to the next step in our process, the predictive index assessment. Predictive Index is a software tool, and we use it to create a behavioral and cognitive profile for every single role in our company, and then the applicants do a quick assessment to help us gauge whether or not they're a match for the role. Now, we don't disqualify people just off of Predictive Index results, but we use it as a data point to assess them against the other people in the talent pool. Now, here's an inside scoop. I personally couldn't stand the idea of these tests because I thought they were all BS until I took this one and read the results. Honestly, I was blown away at how accurate it was. I felt like someone was literally reading my mind. And the fact that I still remember that feeling drives what I'm about to say next. We share the results of the predictive index process with any candidate who wants to see them, regardless of whether or not they move forward in the process. And everyone we've shared it with has been incredibly appreciative. It's these little details like that which are going to set your candidate experience apart from every other company in the world. Now, the next step after that's the interview with the hiring manager. And honestly, I'll probably do an entire video just on how to interview well, but the key ideas are these. Number one, you got to interview for depth, not for breadth. Go deep on the topic because top talent, they're going to remember the specifics. Number two, your job is to make sure that the candidates actually have the experience that you need them to have. For instance, there's a big difference between someone who's gotten a result with their individual work and someone who led a team that got that same result. Neither one's better than the other, but you got to make sure that it matches up with what you actually need out of the role because they're definitely different skill sets. The other key principle I want to share here is my 60-40 rule. I like to spend no more than 60% of the interview asking questions and the other 40% of the interview answering them. If a candidate doesn't have good questions to ask you, they're not top talent because there's always something to know and A players are hungry for knowledge. Just for an example, I literally had someone ask me to see our P&L statement during a job interview. I didn't give it to them, but I really appreciated the ask. They were showing me that they weren't scared to vet us the same way we were vetting them. And yes, that person ended up with a job. All right, so you've interviewed someone you like. Now we can hire them, right? No. What I'm about to share with you is the most important step in the whole process, the test project. And I'll be honest with you, I can't stand companies that make candidates do 3, 4, 5 take-home projects for free. And the reality is that in today's job market, it's a lot tougher to even try that strategy because your best candidates are probably just going to go to a different company that doesn't make it so painful. I hate to break it to you, but you're not Google. But that doesn't mean you can't do anything. Every single role in my company, from director hires all the way down to the most junior individual contributors, everybody does a test project. And here's the kicker. We time cap it at 10 hours, and we pay people to do it. We build a test project for every single role that accurately represents the actual work that's being done. They complete it, they send it over, and then they schedule a Zoom call with us to walk us through the work. And here's the big idea. The presentation is more important than the project itself, not because we need them to read their work to us, but because it gives us a chance to ask questions and see how they think. It's not about the work, it's how they think about the work. Let that sink in for a minute. My goal with every hiring process is to get 3 viable candidates to the test project stage, which lets us make an offer to the one who performs the best and still have a backup if that first person doesn't work out. Now, if you want a sample test project, you can grab it from a link in the show notes below. I'll give you the exact one that I used to hire my last executive assistant. Now that you got all this figured out and you know how to hire your next A player, you gotta lead them. So check out my video on the 4 keys to being a better boss to see exactly how I do it. Hope this video finds you incredibly well. Thanks for watching, everyone. Peace.